heat is not just a temperature here. It is a physical weight. It presses against your eyelids. It settles in your lungs. You are walking through the Gedrosian Desert, a hellscape of gray sand and blistering wind. Thousands of miles from the green hills of home, you look around at the men beside you. They are not the golden warriors who marched out of Macedonia years ago. They are skeletons wrapped in rags. Their lips are cracked, bleeding, fused shut by thirst. The only sound is the shuffling of boots in the dust and the low, delirious moaning of the dying. Then, a ripple moves through the column. A scout has found a trickling spring in a hollow rock. It is barely enough to fill a helmet. They bring it forward, moving through the ranks with reverence until they reach him. The king. He looks as broken as you feel. His eyes are sunken. His skin is scoured by the sun. He takes the helmet. His hands are shaking. He looks at the water. Cool, clear, life-saving water. Then, he looks at you. He looks at the thousands of men who have nothing. And he tips the helmet over. You watch the water splash into the hot sand. It darkens the earth for a second, then vanishes. He refuses to drink if you cannot. In that moment, you love him more than you have ever loved any living thing. And you hate him, because you know he will lead you all to your deaths. And you will follow him gladly. Before the sand and the madness, there was a garden in Mieza. It is difficult to remember now, but this story did not begin with blood. It began with books. It began with the smell of parchment and the shade of olive trees. Picture a group of teenagers sitting on stone benches, listening to a man whose voice is calm and reasonable. The man is Aristotle. The boy listening most intently is Alexander. At 20 years old, he was not a monster. He was the most promising paradox the ancient world had ever produced. He was a creature of two distinct halves. On one side, he was the son of Philip, pragmatic, hardened, a military genius who understood logistics and the brutal geometry of the phalanx. On the other side, he was the son of Olympias, mystical, volatile, convinced he was the son of a god, destined to surpass the limits of human achievement. The world he stepped into was ripe for the taking. The Persian Empire, vast and golden, stretched from the Aegean Sea to the edge of the known world. To the Greeks, it was a monolith of tyranny. Alexander did not just want to defeat it, he wanted to stitch the world together. There was a genuine hope in those early days. When the army crossed the Hellespont, they didn't see themselves as invaders. They were avengers. They were explorers. There was a lightness to the air. The men joked as they marched. They trusted that their king saw a destination they could not yet see. They believed that there was an end to the map. They did not know yet that the horizon moves as you approach it. They did not understand the tragedy of more. The change does not happen all at once. It happens by degrees, like the setting of the sun. First, there is the adrenaline of the early victories. Granicus, Issus, Gaugamela. You are there on the dusty plains, watching the Persian chariots shatter against the Macedonian pikes. You see the great king, Darius, turn his chariot and flee. It feels like destiny. You are walking through the palaces of Babylon, staring up at blue-tiled gates that seem to scrape the sky. You are rich beyond your wildest dreams. But then, the marching continues. You notice the change in him first in the wardrobe. The simple tunic of a Macedonian soldier is gone. He begins to wear the purple robes of the chaotic East. He begins to demand proskynesis, the act of bowing to the floor before him. To a Greek, this is blasphemy. This is something you do only for the gods. The atmosphere in the camp shifts from camaraderie to suspicion. The air grows thick with paranoia. The turning point comes in the city of Maracanda. It is a night of heavy drinking. The wine is dark and unmixed. Cleitus the Black is there, the man who saved Alexander's life at the very first battle, the man who severed the arm of a Persian noble before he could kill the king. Cleitus is drunk. He is angry. He shouts what everyone is thinking. It was your father's army that built this. You have become a stranger to us. The silence that follows is deafening. You see Alexander grab a spear from a guard. You see the flash of bronze. You see Cleitus fall, pinned to the wall, his life spilling out onto the floor. The king weeps. He sobs for 3 days. But he does not stop. The journey pushes east, always east, into the mountains of the Hindu Kush. The cold is so severe it snaps the birds from the air. You climb peaks where the air is too thin to breathe. You descend into the humid, fever-dream jungles of India. The elephants scream in the mist at the Battle of the Hydaspes. It is a nightmare of mud and blood. You win. You always win. But the victory tastes like ash. And then, at the river Hyphasis, the silence breaks. The men stop. They look at the swollen river, and beyond it, the endless expanse of the Ganges plain, and they simply sit down. They cry. They show the king their wounds, their gray hair, their rotting boots. They beg him to take them home. He calls them cowards. He sulks in his tent like a petted child. But for the first time in 10 years, he blinks. The will of the army breaks the will of the king. He agrees to turn back. But the tragedy is not that he stopped. The tragedy is that he had nowhere to go. The return journey is a death march. He leads you through the desert, the one from the beginning of our story, not out of necessity, but perhaps out of punishment. Or perhaps because he simply ceased to care whether he lived or died. Back in Babylon, the end comes not with a sword, but with a mosquito bite, or perhaps a poisoned cup. It starts with a fever. The greatest conqueror in history, the man who survived the charge of chariots and the tusks of elephants, is laid low by sweat and tremor. For days, the soldiers file past his bed. He cannot speak. He can only move his eyes. You walk past him, and he looks at you. Does he recognize you? Does he see the young men who crossed the Hellespont? Or does he only see ghosts? On the 11th day, towards the evening, the breathing stops. The silence that falls over Babylon is heavier than the stone of the ziggurats. They say his body did not decay. For 6 days, while his generals argued over who would wear the crown, the king lay in the sweltering heat of Mesopotamia, looking as if he were merely sleeping. A final biological defiance of the natural order. Eventually, they placed him in a sarcophagus filled with honey. The empire did not last. It shattered the moment his heart stopped. The generals, the companions, tore it apart like wolves on a carcass. The unity he dreamed of became a centuries-long bloodbath. If you go there today, to the plains of Gaugamela or the ruins of Persepolis, there is very little left. The wind blows through the broken columns. The sand has reclaimed the palaces. But the tragedy remains. It is the tragedy of a man who ran so fast, he left his own soul behind. A man who conquered the entire known world, only to find that it was not enough to fill the void inside him. He taught us that you can possess everything and yet hold nothing.